Culture versus religion. Let's get into it. Growing in Africa, we have lots of beautiful, diverse cultures, and we've been grown in those cultures, and we've been practicing those cultures. We grew up with it, we live in it. And yet, there's also religion. Religion is different from culture. One of the most challenging things about being a Christian in Africa is having to decide whether you follow your culture or you follow the religion. Now, before you answer that question, it's not so easy. So I want to just dive into a story in the Bible which might suggest that we have to choose between the two, and which one should we choose, or can we combine both? Now, I'm talking particularly in South African culture. We have some rituals that we practice as Africans, and those rituals are associated with spiritual connections. Things like slaughtering animals and wearing the animal skin on the hands there, or things like if you're in Venda, you cut a number of 11s on your cheeks here with the razor blade. So sometimes people wear little bangles on their wrists, sometimes they wear it around their waist. Now all of that in some culture is associated with warding off evil spirits per se. And some of the people that I've asked, why do you wear that? And the answer that I mostly get is because it protects them from spirits. So, and then naturally now I want to ask, you're a Christian and you've got something on your body that supposedly is protecting you from spirits. Is that particular thing a biblical instruction, or is it just culture and not a religious thing? So that might seem obvious to answer, and most people don't want to get into this conversation because the idea of having to choose whether you follow what the Bible says and what your culture says, or some people just go ahead and write and say, well, I can be a Christian and still follow the rituals of my culture. Well, can you? Discuss in the comments below. That's what I want to know. With this video, I'm hoping that we can teach each other. Perhaps some of you know the real reasons why some of those things are worn, whether those things are worn for spiritual protection, or it's just a tradition or a coming of age ritual. There's a number of various reasons why those things are done. But the question still remains, should we be practicing them and still follow our Christian religion? Let's get into that by going to a story in the Bible with Joshua and the Israelites. And I'm going to read from Joshua 24, verse 14 to 15. So just read here with me. Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity, in truth. And put away the gods which your father served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seems evil to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your father that your father served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So the scenario here is the Israelites had just reached to the point where they're about to get into the promised land. And Joshua, a verse before that, had just told them, listen, God has brought you to a land that you didn't work for. God has given you things that you didn't work for. You've got fruits and things that you didn't work for. Now, before you enjoy those things, you need to give up the gods of your father, which meaning the gods of your ancestors. So whatever traditions and ancestral worship and rituals that the Israelites have carried from Egypt, Joshua is now telling them you need to give up those things so that you serve the Lord. But if you feel that serving the Lord is evil, then you need to choose who to serve, whether it be the gods of your fathers, meaning ancestors, or the God that brought you out of the land of Egypt. And so Joshua then finishes off and says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So right here, he's posing the Israelites with the very question that I'm asking. Should the Israelites be allowed to still keep their traditions before they enter the promised land, or must they leave them behind? Now, that's where we are in Africa. We have a lot of rituals that we practice, and I've seen a lot of people still practicing the African rituals, but those things, if they're associated with spirits, is that not worshiping another form of a god? Now, that's just a question that I know makes a lot of people uncomfortable, especially when you sit and think about it. So I would like to really be educated. Can you still practice your African rituals and wear those things to protect yourself in spirit, even though they're not biblical or godly, because that's a different form of a spirit, and still practice Christianity. Now, that is something for all of us to discuss in the comments. And if that made you feel uncomfortable, welcome. This is why we're here, to learn from each other and to see what's what. I, for me, believe that because Joshua instructed the guys to leave their cultures behind, I think it is right that we abandon the rituals that our forefathers or ancestors practiced that would help to protect us from spirit, and just rely only on God to protect us from the evil one. That's just my take on it. You might have a different take. Please feel free to share. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, a thumbs up will be great, and I will see you soon for the next topic.